Hi everyone, and obviously welcome to the third and final installment of the Q&As for this year's LJMU MA Short Film Festival. I've introduced myself to some of you before. My name is Connor Norcott. I'm a film student here. In fact, I'm one of Lydia's students, and I'll be hosting this morning's session, which is obviously covering the fiction strand, although I think we might be joined by someone from the documentary strand later on, hopefully. First, I'm just going to hand over to you guys first, the filmmakers, and hopefully you can introduce yourselves and the films that you're here to represent. So if you wouldn't mind, maybe tell us a little bit about yourself, your film, kind of where it came from in relation to like both the country and the school that you're from. And if you don't mind, I'm going to start with yourself, Joanna. Would you mind starting for us?
Yep, sure. So I'm here with a film called Helena 25/65. So this one was made as our first year project. So basically in the first year at the Krzysztof Kieślowski Film School where I study, we are always asked to make a fiction film which tells a story but doesn't use dialogue. So as I was thinking about that, I thought of characters who are sort of naturally isolated. Yeah, and that's how I came to sort of this idea. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
I like that a lot. Next, can we have, please, a little word or so from Michał as well, please?
Hello, my name is Michał Piotrowski, not Albin Kolano. I don't know why it's Albin Kolano. I have no idea. I'm also from Krzysztof Kieślowski Film School in Katowice, Poland. Lolo, my film, is also a film with no words because it's a film from the first year as well. I think that's it.
That's perfect. That's perfect. Next, we'll move on to Flickr and Leonard. Please, would you mind giving us a couple of words about that?
Yes, hi, I'm Leonard Mink, the director of Flickr. And I'm also here with Julian, Zalac, the cinematographer of Flickr. He's also here. And we are from Darmstadt in Germany. And yeah, basically, Flickr is a short film about a television show in a dystopian future. And we made this as a student project for a second year of study. And the only rule was to keep it small. And we totally broke this rule.
I think you broke it pretty well. It turned out pretty good for you guys. Next, let's move on to This Place, and Andy and John. Would you mind giving us a couple of words from both of you, please? Let's go to you first, Andy.
Hi, yeah, I'm Andy Heath. I'm from Staffordshire in the UK, and yeah, I graduated from Liverpool John Moores last year, and made This Place as kind of like my final sort of big year film project with John Todd.
Hi, I'm John Todd. Pretty much the same as Andy. Went to John Moores. Kind of glad to be back virtually, I guess. Yeah, we've worked together on several different short film projects, and last year was our final project, which was This Place. So yeah.
Nice. It's good to have you back, guys. Can we move on now next to Laury, if you don't mind?
Hi, so my name is Laury Herubel, and I'm from France. And so I directed Trashbag, and it was my final project from the Northern Film School at Leeds Beckett University in Leeds, UK. Voilà.
Thank you very much. Next, let's have Aleksei with one more, please. Would you mind telling us just a little bit about what this film is about and a little bit about yourself as well?
Sure. So I'm Aleksei. I'm director of One More Please, and I'm from Russia, but I'm doing my master's here at Columbia College Chicago right now. And the film was made during my first year, basically, the same way as many of us. And it was just an assignment, to make a film which uses less than 3 lines of dialogue. And I decided just why not to make it completely dialogueless, wordless, and kind of go with that. And the film is about 2 guys who lock their eyes in a bar and start playing a drinking game. So it's kind of where it came from.
Mm-hmm. It's a nice film. Next, and I think that should be us. Let's move on to Karol then from End of the World. Would you mind give us a little chat about End of the World and a little bit about yourself as well?
Hello there. I'm also a student at Piotrowski Film School as Michał and Joanna. Here with me is Max, the cinematographer who also studies at our very film school. And The End of the World is our second year film. And the task was to make film within the vibe of the novel. And that's how it all came to be.
Thank you very much. So let's start to open up a little bit, and most of these questions will be a little bit open-ended. But first, I'd like to maybe come to you first, Laury, considering you're one of the guys who stayed up pretty much past midnight now. I want to know, was there any real inspiration, or what was the main inspiration kind of behind your film, Trashbag? Where did the idea come from?
So the idea actually come from a documentary that was what passed on TV in France, which was about the rehoming process in America of children. So the stories come from here, and I just made it in the UK, so it doesn't happen in UK, but so I changed a bit the reality to make it in UK, and so it comes from a documentary.
Mm-hmm. I like that a lot. Let's go to Michał next then. I'd like to ask you the same question, and can you tell us a little bit about the inspiration behind a film like Lolo?
Okay. When I was thinking about making a film without any words, I found some Roman Polański and Janusz Majewski, two Polish filmmakers. They were trying to, when they were in school in Łódź in 60s or 50s, they had the same exercise to do, and they were thinking that the short film can use some other form than the big films use. So that's how they made two guys with a wardrobe, for example, a short film. And I thought that it can be interesting for me to try to use some other form, and that's how Lolo. That's how we did Lolo. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Cool. And next for this question, let's come to Karol as well. Would you mind telling us a little bit of the inspiration behind that?
So yeah, as I mentioned earlier, the novel we were supposed to adapt was the Journey to the End of the Night by Louis Ferdinand Céline, which is actually one of my favorites. And so the whole book is actually about I'd say dealing with some kind of trauma. In the book being the First World War. Mm-hmm. And so yeah, I was thinking about a film where two traumas meet and they somehow affect each other in different ways for both of the parties. So yeah, that's how it came to be as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a really interesting concept. Then, let me just move on a little bit to so obviously this is the first year of our film festival, but surprisingly, even for the first year, it's got quite an international outreach. We've got films from all over the world, and I kind of want to know if perhaps your surroundings and the countries that you're from maybe influenced the films in your way. I kind of want to go to let's go to you first, please, Aleksei. With one more, please. Did your upbringing or the country that you're from maybe influence some of maybe the style or the narrative in a way?
Maybe not the country where I'm from, because in Russia it's kind of hard to be gay, and or even bisexual, or meet guys. But I was still coming from a personal place, personal space, I would say. As I was taught this way back in Moscow when I was in Moscow Film School. So the idea, how I got this idea for myself, it was almost Christmas, and I was, it's time when all students go back home, and I could not go home because it was kind of too far and too expensive, and also I had so much work I could not even, have rest. But and I got this feeling of being alone in a foreign country, and originally, the film was not set in a bar. It was set in a grocery store, and guys would compete not for drinks but for goods in running with the aisles, with the shopping carts in aisles, in the parallel aisles. And I feel like I just came from a place where I was one day in a grocery store, and I was just looking around, and I saw only couples, and this way. And then I decided, what if someone locks eyes with me, and I make this connection, and it just goes on, and then his girlfriend comes in. What happens, right? So this is the way I, kind of just build this story.
Yeah, I really like that. I want to kind of ask a similar question then. Let's come to you, please, Leonard. I wonder if yeah, maybe the country that you're from, or maybe even the school that you're at, kind of influenced your film in a way. And even if not, did you maybe learn anything new about the place that you're from?
Yeah, of course, the country I'm from is part of the process. Basically, the trash TV from Germany. I guess many of us have trash TV in their country, but in Germany, it really goes to a certain extent that is really trashy. And basically, there's this television show called Naked Attraction, where yeah, you have it too. Yeah,
we
basically
have it.
the concept of Naked Attraction is someone goes on stage and 5 people are stripping for them, and then they choose who they want to date. And yes, I sort of thought about this, and then thought, yeah, what can it come to as well? And yeah, this is nothing new. This has been done in the 80s with Running Man, but I liked this concentrated atmosphere, someone on the stage and that's it. And that's what I combined, and that's how Flickr was born.
Yeah. I like that you mentioned the kind of concentrated atmosphere. It does kind of feel quite claustrophobic and very tense at times. And I wonder if you could speak a little bit on how you, I don't know, how you kind of created that along with Julian here, the cinematographer. Would you mind maybe come to you first, Julian? How do you think your cinematography kind of affected that nature, that kind of claustrophobic nature of the film?
We pursued the concept pretty much that we, at first we didn't tell the audience where all is taking place and what is happening. So we partly revealed a little bit more at the time. And I think we started on the gun, and then we saw her, and then we saw her pointing the gun on him.
Yeah,
and then we saw the picture of her son, and you didn't really know or catch why this all is happening until the point where the lights go on, you feel, or you recognize that you're in a TV show and the moderator is coming in. And I think that was one very important part for us, that we didn't let the audience know in the first place, at the first minute, what it's all about. So it's all like a bit of a mystery.
Yeah, I really like that. And Flickr was one of the ones that we talked about a lot in the selection process. It was really cool that you guys did that. I think let's maybe stay on the kind of claustrophobia and the sensory nature of some of these films. And I want to move on to This Place with Andy and John, because the first thing that stood out to me was really how unsettling that film is, and how, once again, claustrophobic it is. And I kind of want to know what was it that kind of made you make the film that way and kind of create it so you almost do feel as penned in as these animals?
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of a sort of, we wanted to kind of show everything that's there on the farm, be it like the humans and the animals and sort of like all the buildings and just sort of like the sort of grim kind of British countryside, and kind of film it all in the same way, like it's all sort of, it's all kind of like shouting out at you in a certain way, even though there's no like dialogue or anything like that. It's kind of like yeah, we wanted to film them all in a kind of way. We filmed them all in kind of like a really similar way, but contrast the two different characters and how we kind of approach that, and one hopefully feels a bit more authentic as if they're like an actual worker on the farm, and then the other one is kind of in this sort of maybe internal world where things are a bit different, but you know, it's all sort of very the camera doesn't really move at all, and it's all very kind of like stationary, kind of quite close-up looks at things. We wanted it to be sort of very, you know, as if you're being stared at a lot by everything that's there, you know.
There's a really great moment in your film where there's just like there's a really harsh cut from all these really claustrophobic and penned in shots of the animals, and then there's just one of the young women on the farm just standing there completely isolated. And when I saw that last night, when I was going back through the films, I was like, I need to ask these guys about that, because to me, one of the real qualities of your film is that the narrative is kind of there if you want to find it, but the main thing for me was how it's like almost like a sensory overload, whether it's cinematography or the sound design. And then I think I'll come to you here, John, and I want to know, what was kind of the process and how did it work, almost creating a narrative through or within such a sensory experience? Because it is quite overwhelming at times. Would you mind talking a little bit on that?
Well, yeah, well, first of all, like, going to the farm itself, actually, that's what the atmosphere is kind of like in terms of when you're seeing the older sister. It's like a documentary. We felt the atmosphere as soon as we walked in to the farm. We were like greeted by like looked like 1,000 cows at the back of the farm, yet it was so silent, which was kind of eerie but kind of peaceful at the same time. And all of a sudden, then you'd start to hear one cow start to mew, and then another one would, you hear one in the background, all of a sudden there's an orchestra of cows starting to mew, and we incorporated that into the film. So although it was Foley work and we designed the soundscape afterward, that's kind of like what it was like. We kind of just captured it afterwards, and we used the farm as a presence in the film, and it's used as a way of kind of showing off the experiences of both the characters. One kind of has the experience of it being more of a calming, peaceful, normal experience and within nature. And the other one has more of we use the farm as being like an internal entrapment, and we use the sound design for that, and the way we shoot it as well, kind of close it up in parts to kind of have that claustrophobic feel to it. So yeah, the farm's atmosphere that we thought was a huge part in helping drive the narrative of the film.
I think it's really interesting that there's a lot of films here on show, at least with the people who are in today's Q&A, that don't rely on dialogue, and it's more about the actual craft of the film, and that kind of creates whatever sense of feeling that the characters are going through. I think this is really present in Joanna's film, Helena 25/65. I think I might have already asked you about your inspiration behind this, but then let's maybe move on to Helena as a character then. What was it that kind of, I guess, what was the kind of the motive behind making her feel and seem so isolated in this film?
Yeah, so basically, well, it was, I guess the initial motivation was because we had that task. So we had to make a film, tell a story without dialogue. So I thought, I knew I wanted to make a realistic film. I wanted to have it like set in this sort of like my immediate surroundings. I wanted to like reflect the city where I live now, where this film school is, and reflect sort of the Poland of today. And so I was looking for, naturally, I was looking for characters who would be who'd be isolated. And I thought of this nonfiction article that I read about loneliness and elderly people.
Mm-hmm.
And there was this really, really touching moment in it where they talked about a woman who was so starved for a human touch that she would try to brush her hand against shop assistants just to feel another person, you know.
Mm.
So I had that in mind, and also just thinking about my own grandmother after my grandpa's passing. And I thought that's enough emotion in there to sort of build a short story around a short film around.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew that if I'm telling a story of a character like that who is sort of like stuck and sort of where there's not much going on for them, the film should have some of that quality as well, that it should be static,
Mm-hmm.
that there shouldn't be, it shouldn't be driven by events as much as just driven by sort of an attempt to reflect what that woman is thinking, what that woman is longing for.
Mm-hmm. Can I quickly stay on this film then? Can I ask, is that maybe why the kind of blend of the Super 8 footage is so useful for you? Because it's in those moments there's a bit more, I don't know, a bit more dynamism in the cinematography. It moves a little more. Obviously this represents her at a younger point of her life. I guess that's kind of a point where there was a bit more happiness, or maybe a bit more fulfillment, or less isolation. Maybe, was there anything in that?
Yeah, definitely. Like there's much more life to the Super 8 sequences, I think, than the sort of the present, which we shot on digital. So there's there's more life, there's more movement as well.
Mm-hmm.
The rest of the film is quite like we really wanted it to be static.
Mm-hmm.
For the most part. Yeah, and also like one more thing is that I think the Super 8, it was important for me to sort of show her as someone who's in her mind, she's stuck in the past. So wherever whenever she has a moment to sort of reflect, her thoughts naturally go back to the past, because there's not much going on in the present.
Yeah. I'd just like to say quickly that I loved the little callback with the cherries. That was really, really sweet. I really like that. And the little bit when she kind of stays on the bus at the end is really, really nice. I think I want to move back, to Lolo, which is obviously another film with no dialogue. But a lot of the films today something that all the films today have in common is that the opening 5 seconds, the opening shot are so engaging. And Lolo is kind of one of these, because once again, despite the no dialogue, the score catches you straight away. And I want to ask Michał, can you talk a little bit about the score and how that influenced the film?
Yes, of course. But if I can, I would like to use help from Karol.
Of course.
Translate for me everything, please.
Of course.
My English is not so good. So I think it will be easier for everybody and for me. So,
you can always count on me, Michał.
Karol?
Chodzi
o ścieżkę dźwiękową, tak?
Tak, o muzykę.
Okej, dobrze, no to muzyka...
Jak ona jest angażująca.
Zależało mi na tym, żeby muzyka była bardzo spójna z estetyką w ogóle filmu, dlatego użyliśmy tylko w zasadzie instrumentów perkusyjnych i przygotował ją główny aktor, który tutaj jest, czyli Bartek Błaszczyński.
Dobra, daj mi chwilę. So Michał wanted the whole music to be very to make it fit perfectly for the film. That's why he decided on using only the percussion, which has been composed by the gentleman behind him.
I see. That is something, that is something that I really, really enjoyed about the film. And if we can stay on this for a second, I want to know, how did that kind of affect the editing process for Lolo? Because obviously for me, the percussive score has got so much rhythm in it that it kind of carries the audience through the film. And I wonder if in any way the editing process was kind of affected by that.
Karolu, mógłbyś?
Czy fakt, że to, że jest na te perkusje i to jest tak bardzo rytmiczne, czy jakoś to wpływało na montaż i sposób, w jaki montowałeś?
Tak, zdecydowanie. Jedną z uwag, jakie dostałem od wykładowców, kiedy przyniosłem scenariusz, było to, że to musi być dobre w rytmie. I też to czułem od początku i dlatego wydaje mi się, że muzyka bardzo ułatwiła to zadanie, po prostu zrytmizowała ten film.
So when Michał brought this script to our lecturers, the first thing they told him, that the very first feedback was, it has to be very good in a rhythm sense. And yeah, so it affected it very much. And he also thought that the music, the percussion also made editing quite easier because it just flows.
Yeah, I fully see that. Finally, if we can stay on Lola for 2 seconds, I'd also like to ask a little question about the set design and the production design and the costume design, because it's so eye-catching and vibrant and striking. And I wonder if you could just speak a little bit on the importance of that within the film.
Of course.
Kostiumy, scenografia i tak dalej.
Tak, no to wszystko wzięło się z teatru, gdzie no po prostu mam teatr niezależny, w którym mamy takie kostiumy i mamy takie pojazdy i taką scenografię, więc po prostu użyłem tego. Poszukałem jakiegoś klucza estetycznego do tego filmu, czegoś, co zespoli jakby cały ten świat go zbuduje. No i na szczęście to wszystko było gotowe i dzięki temu ten film kosztował tylko 2000 euro, a nie więcej.
So the thing you didn't know about Michał, he's also running an underground theater in our city. So the whole of the production design and the costumes, where he was actually in hold of them because of the theater. And when he was looking for an aesthetic to put this whole imaginary film into, he decided to mix those two things: all the post-industrial stuff he's got from the theater, and the hats and everything, and that made it all much easier, and it made the film cost only 2,000 euros, not 10,000.
That always helps, I guess, doesn't it? Thank you very much for that. Karol, if you don't mind, can I ask you a little question about your film as well? I guess you spoke a little bit earlier about trying to adapting from that novel, and how you kind of tried to convey the two sides of the trauma, or the two different traumas and their weird connection. Was there any challenge in trying to do that? Or sorry, what was the main challenge in trying to do that?
Well, yeah, there were many challenges. Well, the starting point for me was in the book. There is this beautiful a sequence of passing of a dog, and how a dog can pass beautifully without all the theater and trying to make sense of his living. There's just pure suffering and nothing else. And I found it very touching and very moving. So I decided to just blend this idea into the film. It was some sort of starting point as well, I guess. And so I've got the one part, like the dealing with a loss. I also wanted to add some the importance of that the dog she loses this is the only last thing she's got from her other life. Well, when she was living with his husband, his past child, her past child. So I wanted to make the dog very important. And then we've got the young guy, the interviewer, and I was thinking quite a lot about how to build this character, but I also wanted as many people as possible to just trying to like have the connection with him. So I decided not to give him a very specific kind of trauma, but the effect of what the trauma was, which is he cannot sleep. And now when I look back at this film, because we made it like 2 years ago, I'm thinking if it was a good decision, but if it doesn't weaken the protagonist. But well, for that moment, I thought it was a great idea, and I'll stick to that. So that's how I wanted to build it, like the effect of a trauma and like a very harsh trauma on the other side.
I really like that, and I actually, one thing I really like in your film is that there is kind of a lot of contrast and a lot of juxtaposition, whether they are between the drama that you talked about, or even just the two characters. And I want to know, can you tell us a little bit about the casting process and how you settled on those two actors? Because I think they're fantastic.
So the actress who plays the Igaromin, the painter, it's all thanks to Max, because he found her at one of in our school. There was this I don't know, like some practice one day of like shooting in studio, something, and Max was working there, and he just sent me a picture of her and said, I think she might fit into our movie. And I was like, oh well, maybe she actually might. Then he sent me all the material they shot on during those practice in studio. And so I got her number. I called her. I live in the very south of Poland. She then was in the very north of Poland by the sea. So I was like, well, I think we should meet. And she was like, sure, but I'm like 600 kilometers away from it. I was like, no worries, I will just get on the train. Then I went by the Polish seaside. We ate pierogi and had a stroll on the beach and talked about a lot of things. She asked me very, very hard questions for me to answer back then, as I was still learning about how to work with actors on the character development. And I learned a lot from her, which I'm very, very grateful for. And that's how it came to be. We met for that one day before shooting, because that's how much time for me she could make. And then we met on set and worked then. And the young guy, Mikołaj Kubacki is his name, and he finished the theater school in Krakow in Poland, and I saw him in a play in Krakow, and I felt like, well, maybe he might suit as well because of his impeccable face, I would say, because he's just there is something in it, like it's not childish, it's just pure in some way, but also very creepy. I like that. And I was like, you're the one. And then we also met more times than with Małgosia, because he was in Warsaw and Warsaw as well. So we just met a few times, had a coffee, and talked about the character as well. And also, of course, the Leon, the dog, the very important part. The dog is his actual name is Leon as well. And I thought that's a sign. I knew I wanted a very massive dog, and our production crew just came up with someone who is in a hold of such a beautiful creature. And yeah.
Well, it all worked out pretty well for you. So well done, guys. I'd like to ask a bit of an open-ended question then, and this can go to anyone here. So if anyone feels like jumping in, feel free. Can you tell me about what was the kind of the biggest challenge that any of you faced on or within the production of your films? Whether it was, I don't know, silly little things like a bad day on set, or locations going wrong, or even lights not working, because as someone who's made some not very good short films, I know all about that. Maybe go to Aleksei here.
Yeah, so I think every film has their own challenges, but for us, it was, as I told this, the film wasn't set in a bar, and it wouldn't be set if we found a grocery store, that would allow us to use their space, but it was just impossible. In the United States, you cannot do it with no money, right? So this is how I was forced basically to switch my mind and come up with basically new setting for a story, just on the fly, right? I believe like a few days before the production goes on. So I was kind of just scared, and I had to switch the script to change it. but also the weather was actually challenging because, this opening scene that we have in the film, when our character goes outside, and sees all of these couples. It was February, actually, and this is how I got this St. Valentine's balloon that we have in frame. But it was so cold. It was the coldest ever evening in Chicago for this particular year, for this particular winter. So he was, but we established this code, that really thin code that he has on him in the bar scene. So we could not change it to anything. So, it was super challenging for him to stay there outside. I don't know how many takes, because it's so hard to wreck the focus with the moving character. It's so hard. And also the camera is also moving. So it was just a disaster, basically. And I feel so bad for him. Sorry. Yeah.
I feel like that happens to quite a few people, doesn't it? Staying on this kind of cinematography thing that you talked about, I want to come back to Julian then, who was the cinematographer for Flicker. I think that film, one of the real qualities is just how good it looks. The aesthetic is so nice, despite the fact that it is so uncomfortable and kind of claustrophobic, like we talked about earlier. I want to know, is there a shot or a particular moment that you're really proud of, that really stands out to you?
It's a good question. I think one of the basically the last shot of the film is just characteristic for the film. It was a big build up for a big dolly track, which we had to move very, very fast. And sometimes we shot the dolly over because we couldn't stop it before. So that one was very hard to do because we had all this glitter stuff in the air. All the crowd had to cheer, and she had to look into the camera. And there was a lot of stuff we had to do to accomplish that shot. But I think that one is, the most complex, but also the most characteristic shot.
Yeah, I do like that shot a lot. And any shot with the game show host, I think he's just got he's got one of those faces that just looks so good on camera, I think. Can we go to Max quickly, who's with Karol then? I think you said he was the cinematographer for End of the World. Was there a particular shot that you enjoyed the most as well?
Shots which I enjoyed the most was making the scene with a dog when the camera finally moves.
I do like that one a lot as well.
One of our main agreements about the visual part of the film was the concept of camera not moving or moving just a little bit. And the dog scene was supposed to be like contradictory to the other part of the film. Significant to the whole structure of the film.
Okay, thank you very much. And let's start to wrap up a little bit, and I wanna come back to Trashbag then, because like I said, I'd made some pretty bad short films before, but I'd never ever dream of working with a child actor, and you managed to work with Jack Hayes, who plays Billy, and he's fantastic. And I want to know, can you talk a little bit about him, because he's so good. He steals that film. He's great.
Yeah, I was really lucky because he's just an amazing kid. So he was 10 and he looks so young, so that was perfect. And so we did auditions, and I think we saw about a bit less than 100 kids, and it was hard. So yeah, I was a bit hesitating at the beginning because he was young and he has never done, because we shot on 1 week and he has never done something that long for him. So, but he did it so well, and he was a bit shy at the beginning, but he got into the mode, and he was, I'm very happy with him because he just had the face to go on, and you want to like him.
Yeah,
so
completely.
He's really nice. And even the second child, Scarlett Archie, she was really good as well, and so I was okay with both of them, and it was a long audition process, but at the end, it was worth it. So yeah.
Would you mind also talking a little bit about the kind of I don't know how to describe it. The kind of runway, almost like pageant scene near the end where the kids walk out, because even on rewatches, that's that's the hard part. Yeah.
That's actually the movie that was the first scene I wrote of the movie, because in the documentary it was not this kind of catwalk, but they were a catwalk where kids were just walking and there was people saying, "Oh, I think I found my child." So I just found it so shocking, and I was like, it has to be, it can be a movie. So because and so it was a challenge to make this scene, because we just had like a black room, so we had to build like the catwalk thing and everything. But yeah, I'm really happy how it turned out, and the light and the ambience that day was really fun.
Yeah, I think it worked out really well. So I think now that's all my questions done. So I'm going to hopefully open up the Q&A to the audience if they have any questions. I think Lydia might want to take over here.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much, Connor, and thank you everybody very much for your answers so far. Been fascinating. I do have some questions on the chat. I will read those, and of course, if people want to add questions to the chat, or if somebody wants to, say something, that's fine too. But I will take them actually a bit backwards, not fully, but I will reorganize them. I think two of my students are very keen on happy endings, I think, and I will read those questions because I think they're an interesting way to kind of move forward a little bit. But one is for Aleksei and the other one is for Laury, and one is Kieran Wainwright asks, Leonard, Aleksei, question to Aleksei, do you have any plans for a sequel to One More Please? And actually that's connected to the previous question, actually, by another student of mine, Matthew, who said that how important it is to have a positive ending, particularly for LGBTQ stories, because usually the ending of these stories is tragic, and it's nice to see a positive ending. So that's one question. One question is how important is a positive ending, and whether you have a follow-on. And the similar question about follow-ups, basically, will be afterwards for Laury, whether there's going to be a second film with Billy getting his family. But Aleksei, if you want to start first with the importance of the positive ending, basically.
Sure, absolutely. So yeah, it was absolutely important for me to kind of, leave the audience. It's a question of what you leave the audience with, like we are all responsible for the takeaways they have, right? After watching this, what we kind of give them, what we kind of want to transfer to them with our films, So it was really necessary, I feel. And also another question is, LGBT is always portrayed in this, dramatic and dark way, and like everything is so sad. I just felt like you can't do this. And also, especially coming to the United States, where there is the tradition of happy ending. No, we want a happy end. I was kind of just, embracing this culture of happy endings because I kind of get this, like you're responsible for your audience and what experience you want them to feel after watching this. You want them to cry all night, or like what, right? As for sequel, I would say it's amazing that you're asking. Thank you so much. And in another festival, I had another person asking basically the same question, but they were asking about the feature, if they're going to be a feature made out of this. I didn't have such a plan, but since there's such a demand, probably, I don't know. The story is engaging, I guess. So we might find some story behind it.
I love the twist though, as well. The way it kind of, the twist at the end is great. It really makes it work, yeah. Thank you very much. Laury, do you want to say something about your film? And the kind of possibility of follow-up, basically, follow-on rather.
I don't know if there will be a movie following up. I really still like the subject, and I think there is still material to do things with it, so maybe. But yeah, each time I'm trying to write something, I don't know why the ending is never really happy. So maybe
fair enough.
That's what I do. But yeah, and I think the story was not appropriate for like a happy ending. Oh, I wanted it to stop because I wanted to kind of go in the face of the people. So that's what I think. Putting an happy ending just to get an happy ending on this movie would have not served it at all. So
that's fair enough.
Why it's top.
Thank you very much, Laury. Thank you. I will read now. I'm mixing up the questions. I'm going to read up the last question. Is for Andy and John? Is from Lars. Is this the juxtaposition of the two characters inspired by your own feelings towards place or home? In other words, does this have an autobiographical origin?
Well, I mean, yeah, I guess it kind of like we filmed it in my sort of hometown. It was like about 5 minutes away from where I've kind of like lived my entire life, and so it's sort of, you know, it's set in a very familiar sort of landscape to me, and we wanted to have a kind of very sort of mixed, you know, we're not really trying to say anything with either characters. We wanted it to be, you know, it's two very different opinions, and that's really all we're kind of really trying to explore. We're not, you know, siding with either of them. And yeah, John, do you want to say? Because I feel like with John's like it was kind of me saying, oh no, this will work really well for our kind of like something that we were talking about and that we felt very strongly, and then it was set in, well, John's from Liverpool, like a city, but I think when he went to the location, it was kind of, you know, he had that connection just instantly when he got there, I think.
Yeah, of course. I'm from the city, so it's not kind of as familiar to me. So the experience in terms of autobiographical, I don't, not for me. It's more of kind of appreciating. I guess there's aspects of appreciating that work, and also understanding that people can approach work life in different ways. And so that's what the film kind of does. It's not saying one thing or the other about that life. It's kind of just displaying it, and these are the possible feelings you can have towards it. So my experience of actually going to the farm was amazing. Like, I loved it. It was fantastic to see just how it all operates. Just we got to kind of be shown around how the milking process goes, and kind of the life of a farmer, just seeing that while filming. And so it kind of had a documentary feel to it, experience making the film anyway. The only thing I would say is we filmed it in February and it was freezing cold, so there was difficulties there. But yeah, I love the countryside, being part of just nature, and it has a great escapism to it. So yeah, like, I enjoyed my time on the farm there. So yeah. Thank
you. Thanks very much, Andy and John. I've got another question from Matthew Hogan, one of my students on the MA. Question for Joanna. How was the casting process for your film? Your cast have an amazing way of being expressive with no dialogue.
It's very kind. So actually, the main actress who plays Helena, Katarzyna Bargielowska, I cast her based on the films she made before. So we didn't have any auditions for this role, and also because of an illness in the family, I couldn't really meet her. So she was really tied up with personal things. So I only met her on the first day of the shoot. But yeah, I had seen quite a lot of materials with her. She had done quite a lot of really good stuff, actually, because she I think she finished film school probably around 30 years ago. So that was there was plenty of material to be seen. And then Paweł Paczesny, who plays the homeless guy, I cast him based on the play I saw, where he was part of the cast. And then the young actors, so Helena's boyfriend, I knew the actor personally, and the young Helena, I basically cast her to have someone whose looks would roughly match the older actress. So basically cast her mostly because of how she looked and resembled the older Helena. So that's it really. But I think I was really lucky to have very good actors. I don't think that much effort went into the casting process, like compared to like what I see other people do. So I think there was a lot of luck involved, to be honest.
That's great. Thank you very much for that. I have a question for I've lost it now, for Michał, which is partly answered, but perhaps you want to add something more. So Karol, get prepared to translate if necessary. It's what was the inspiration behind using the futuristic hats as a sign of wealth? Did you always envision the characters this way? I mean, I gather the answer is connected with the fact that you already said they were kind of props and costumes from the theater place, but I don't know if there's anything else to be added.
Szukałem po prostu jakiegoś wizualnego ekwiwalentu do opowiedzenia tej różnicy klasowej, która jest zapisana w scenariuszu, w tym świecie. No i te kapelusze wydały mi się najbardziej smaczną opcją, którą w zasadzie miałem, więc tak wyszło.
Michał was looking for visual equivalent of the class difference between people, and he just decided that hats are, as he referred, the most delicious way of showing it.
The most delicious. That's
Yes.
Good. I like that. Great. That sounds great. Actually, since I'm on you, I'm going to actually add in a question of mine for Karol and your cinematographer, for both of you. It's to do with the cinematography of your film, which is pretty impressive, I have to say. And I wanted to ask you if there is a particular inspiration of a film in relation to the look. How did you consider, decide a particular look for the film, basically, which works beautifully?
I will start by saying that, well, me and Max work very closely on our films. We get together even on the script, so we discuss it quite a lot. And we just exchange our ideas. I've got some things that are very important for me, and then Max just makes it all work together. So yeah. Now I'll pass it on to you.
Well, it's talking about references.
Sorry, can you come closer if you don't mind, because I cannot hear you very well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Speaking about references, I would say we haven't had, talking about the film specific references, we haven't had anything really particular. We have few agreements. As I mentioned before, we knew that camera was not a lot, which made us think about more static situations and static work of the camera. And my starting point was to make this visual part of the film in the way your texture, thinking about textures and stuff, like, because the main character was painter, well, the main character was painter. I thought that in terms of composition stuff, we somehow we tried to somehow refer to the more painting than film.
And what I just wonder, just one more thing. What I think works great in our cooperation is that we are both quite different characters in terms of like people, but we've got a very, very similar sensitivity. So on set we also like work. We just feel things in a very similar way, and in terms of films, and it makes it all very, very easy, at least for me. So because I can feel like being understood, which gives me a great amount of safety, and just feels good. So that's why it's quite hard for me like to put in words all the things that come together in terms of the visual part of the film, because it's just the way we both feel something and feel this is the only good way to portray it.
That sounds great. It makes a lot of sense to me, though. And I presume, given such a strong collaboration between the two of you, you either already have and also plan to work together in the future as well.
Yeah, we do. We now we're in the preparing of our well, technically mine thesis film, but we are also doing it together. So yeah, we're getting on. We're starting to shoot it in like 3 months. So we're now doing all the production work, and I'm meeting with the actors. So yeah, we work together, and I hope we will forever and ever.
Excellent. Good luck. Right, I think 2 more questions, and unless anybody else wants to add more before I decide to wrap this up, but I will ask one question by one of my students and then a question by the director of our school. But the question from Kieran Wainwright, who's one of the MA students, is open to anybody who is keen to answer, and it's mainly, I think, addressed to those who have films with topics that may be considered controversial. And he says, are you concerned about backlash with your films as they do those whose films have some either unsettling and or controversial themes? So I'm not sure if anybody wants to say whether you are kind of worried about what people think or no. Silence. Nobody's worried about what other. Yeah, so anybody wants to say? Yeah, it's fine. Don't worry if you don't, that's fine. I think personally that the main thing for creatives is to actually express what they wish to express and do the best at doing it in the most refined and complete way, and not worry about necessarily the responses. Of course, they welcome good responses, but right. So I don't see any other questions apart from my as a director of our schools, Rachel McLean. And I don't know, Rachel, perhaps I can let you talk. Perhaps why don't you ask your question?
And you're on mute. Okay, thank you. Let me just say that I really enjoyed this. And I think in answer to Lydia's question there, I think there were a lot of these films. I watched a few yesterday afternoon, had a lovely afternoon. But I think people have been very brave in bringing some of those, controversial issues, and as at the start, the sort of idea of within the context of your country and the different cultures. I think there's a lot of really brave work being done. So well done and congratulations. And thank you for submitting to our film festival and to our own students and staff. How amazing. I knew it was all looking very good, but having been in this session and seeing, people from across the world joining in, I feel really excited and really proud of all of this. So well done. So my question was about the fact that really, I've really enjoyed this and seeing you all chatting to each other, discussing your work and the different contexts that your work has come from. And I just wondered if there are any plans for you all to keep in touch. Any ways to perhaps work on films together across the world. I don't know if our students have thought of that, or whether there's something we could put into place, or is that something that people would be interested in if there is something that we can do?
I like your projecting to the future big time there, Rachel. I like that. So we can not only show people's films, but plan ahead for,
It's just such a lively community. And if, things have been different and you'd all come to Liverpool for this, there might well have been little networks forming and, you've gone out for a drink. And so I'm just hoping that we can keep some of this momentum and these incredible links that you've made, going, even though we've all met virtually. If anyone's got any ideas on that.
If I may answer something whilst other people think as well, I think this is something that can take time as well for people to just brew with potential connections. But I think the main, from my perspective, was great is people have actually, particularly filmmakers who are here today, have virtually met each other at least and heard each other's thoughts about their own film, which is a start. But it does take time, I think, for any potential collaborations to develop. And of course, proper film festival, established film festivals, because we are the first year we're running this anyway, do actually tend to encourage such collaborations, and often these collaborations just happen naturally anyway, and they don't, they're not kind of pre-organized. So in some cases they are, but in other words, in some cases they're nurtured in particular kind of programs for co-productions and stuff like that. But that's great. Anyway, I don't know if anybody has any thoughts about this.
Yeah, I just wanted to jump in. Sorry, I think it would be a great idea if we make a document or something that everyone can find each other's emails at least, easily. So something like that, I think would help.
Yes.
Great idea, Lars. Yeah, great idea.
I think that's absolutely true, and I presume everybody's happy for their information to be shared. So that wouldn't, if anybody is not, of course, you can let us know, but we assume you are. So absolutely. Yes, I think it's great to keep networks for both for future projects in terms of filmmaking, but also for, encouraging each other's films to be shown. So it's not only the making, it's also the kind of distribution and exposure, and basically knowing about other possibilities. So yeah. Don't know if anybody wants to add anything or ask. Otherwise, I'll pass on to Connor, who can actually round off this session as it's his session as a host. I mean,
I think Aleksei had his hand up.
Oh, Aleksei wants to talk or something. I didn't see that. Sorry, Aleksei, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So I think the whole idea of festivals is not just exposure, but also networking for sure. And I would be happy to connect with everyone. And I was gonna say, about going back to this previous question about controversial topics and feedback that we're getting. We do want this feedback, just to grow as filmmakers. I believe I would be grateful for any feedback, even something that I did really, really badly. I would love to hear about this, because this is how I would, just grow and develop my skills.
Thank you. And may I just add about this, that apart from, of course, our students who could contact you because they know, in the festival, we do have this comment section, and I would like people to use this for anything, even if it's for asking to contact you, to say something more specific, but generally also in terms of responses. So I do hope, and people who can watch this later, because this is recorded, please remember to leave comments for the films, because the filmmakers want to hear from you. So. Yeah.
I think it's also a great idea if we try to connect. I mean, especially for me, sitting in a room with that much directors is pretty good. So it would be great to connect with you guys.
Of course, because you're a cinematographer. Absolutely. Absolutely. So yes, we will circulate the emails and contact information. Yeah. Does anybody else want to say anything, or I'm passing on to Connor now? Yeah. Connor, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Right.
If that's us done, then I'd just like to say, honestly, the biggest thank you to everyone who's came to the Q&As and you guys who've submitted, because like I said, for it being our first film festival, the first year we've done this, the international reach has been huge and the support's been great. And it's actually even for film students like us, it's just made me want to get back into making films, and all your work's been fantastic. And honestly, just a huge thank you. One quick thing, of course, there's the Paper Bird award ceremonies on Wednesday. So if any of you want to get involved with that, you can obviously come. And I'm really looking forward to that. And honestly, the best of luck to all you guys and everything you do, because it's been a real pleasure. So thanks very much.